It's always there when you need it, and saves you from catastrophe in the most difficult situations. We're not talking about superheroes, of course, but traction control. How does it even work? Why do all GT3 cars in ACC use this system? And am I faster when I deactivate it? Let's find out together. Most players use traction control on a regular basis when playing ACC. Some might even have dedicated buttons on their steering wheel to change the TC value on the fly. But what does traction control actually do? You see, the system could also have been called an anti-wheel spin system because that's actually what it's trying to do. If the throttle input and therefore power is too great for the wheels to transfer this torque to the tarmac, the TC tries to regulate the amount of power produced by the engine. Or in short, if you accelerate so hard that the wheels spin, the TC will tone down the engine and help you accelerate smoothly. Traction control can be found in almost any real-world modern car nowadays, and it contributes greatly to road safety and is also a key feature in GT3 racing. Uh-oh, we can already hear the F1 2020 fans booing, so we'll explain this quickly. You have to know that modern F1 cars don't have traction control built into them. Yes, TC was an integral part of Formula 1 between 2001 and 2008, but it was then removed because it made driving the F1 cars too easy. In the current offshoot of the Codemasters series, however, there is traction control to make the game as pleasant as possible for beginners and controller players. Experienced racers turn off the TC to avoid having any artificial interference with the driving experience. On top, you are significantly faster without this driving aid. So is it better to turn off traction control in ACC as well? No, it isn't. GT3 cars are built and meant to be driven with this technology enabled. In contrast to F1, the weight in GT3 vehicles can be distributed differently, which makes front-engine cars, like in the Mercedes AMG, possible. If you want to know more about how to set up GT3 cars, check out our tutorial with Jardier, who explains in detail how to find the right settings for you. Okay, now that we know that traction control is not our enemy here, let's take a look at what the numbers mean in the game. What makes ACC unique is that all cars handle and feel different and are accurate rebuilds of the original thing. That also applies to the traction control. Some only have one value, others come with TC1 and TC2, and the range of adjustable steps also varies drastically from model to model. But one thing applies to all cars. A low level means that TC intervenes less, and a higher level means more intervention. If you're driving a car with two traction control settings, like the Ferrari 488 Evo from the GT World Challenge pack, it's easier to fine-tune the traction control to your liking. In this case, TC1 will regulate the timing of when traction control kicks in, meaning how long the system lets you slide over a surface without interference, and TC2 will adjust the amount of power cut the system will apply to the engine. This can help you to control oversteer better and give you more options to find the right settings for your driving style. Our recommendation is to keep the two settings close to each other, as too great a difference between the TC1 and TC2 settings can lead to the system not functioning properly. Try to keep the values one click from each other for maximum performance. If your car only has one traction control setting, timing and amount of control will be set identically. But what are the actual differences of a higher traction control setting compared to a lower one? If driving with TC turned up is more stable, why should you ever consider turning the aid down? The answer to that is easy: speed. To illustrate this, we did a test around Spa with the Mercedes Evo. First, we turned the traction control all the way up to 11. The fastest lap we could manage in our test drive was a 2:23.850. The graph shows just how much and how long the TC interferes with our power output around the corners and exiting the corners. You can even hear the engine cutting the power if you listen closely. This led to significant time loss in every turn and showed just how slow a high TC setting can make you. Right after that, we drove the same setup and car with a lower TC setting, in this case 4. The result was a whopping 1.7 seconds difference in lap time, in exchange for a little oversteer, and I think there was some time left in that lap for us. But to be fair, the Mercedes 2020 has a phenomenal traction control system that won't cost you as much time as you would lose in older cars in the game. So let's wrap this up. Traction control, or TC for short, is your friend in ACC. It helps you maintain stability in corner exits because it tries to prevent the rear wheels from spinning. To do that, it cuts the power output in great chunks. A lower TC value in ACC means less interference, a higher one more. Your goal is to find a good balance between stability and time loss to get the maximum out of your lap. And that's it for today. We hope you learned something new and are now ready to hit the tracks with the right amount of TC enabled. For more esports racing content in general, visit overtake.gg or our YouTube and other social channels. Thanks for having me, and until next time, cheers.